everyone. Hope you're all well. Hope you had a fantastic Easter. I did. Anyway, on tonight's show, I've got a guy called Adam Stevens. I've met about 12 months ago. He's got a great story. Anyway, you're listening to... Yeah, thanks very much for tuning in. Yeah, why not link up with me on Twitter at Dougie Stone or at Dougie Stone Show. My Facebook page is Kurt Pickstone and my website's dougiestone.com. Also check out Radio Warwickshire. We're looking for unsigned bands, so why not submit your MP3s to that on the tab. Listen live every Tuesday, and I do a country show on a Friday. Yeehaw! Anyway, let's get on with the show. Well, like I say, people, tonight I've got the man, the mystery, Adam Stevens. He's on a European trip at the minute, so I thought I'd use the old interweb, get hold of him, get him on the show, because I think he's a really interesting guy. I think he's a lot of time misunderstood, and I think it's a good opportunity for him to give us a bit of his story, and we'll take it from there. So, good evening, Adam. How are you doing?
Very good. Thank you very much, Kirk, for having me. You're right. I am actually away at the moment. I'm in southern Spain at the moment, which is really nice, lovely, great to see different culture. But yeah, we can talk about all sorts of things. But yeah, let's have some fun.
Yeah, sound mate. Well, I think it'd be good for people to, because I know a bit about your backstory, but not a lot of people do. They only see, especially those that we know that are in Facebook page, and the people that are listening won't even know you from that. So, you're just a name at the minute, Adam Stevens. So give. I think it'd be good to give people a bit of a background, and then how you're from that, how your business has emerged, and then obviously we can address that as we go through. But so give people a bit of a history of who Adam Stevens is, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the honest answer is I don't fully know myself yet at this stage, which sounds very crazy. But to give people an overview, I was born on a Wednesday. It was June the 27th in 1979. I don't remember it personally.
Glad you don't.
No, but I was born. I was born something called a blue baby, which for some people they'll go, what on earth does that mean? And I didn't know what it meant either, and my mother didn't know what it meant. But really it just meant that I was born with a very strange heart condition. And it's lots of children are born with heart conditions. It's the most common birth defect, actually. But, to cut a long story short, I had to have surgery when I was 21 months old, and it was amazing surgery, without getting into the details, but to make it relatable, I think, to people, if you can imagine trying to do very intricate surgery on a child's heart the size of a strawberry, then the odds are kind of stacked against you. And we're talking sort of 30, almost 40, oh God blimey, almost 40 years ago now. And so that's always been something that's always been in my mind. I've never known any different. So for me, that's changed my perspective of how I look at things. And maybe that's made me different to perhaps some other people that we might have in our society. Does that make sense initially?
Yeah, it does make sense. And then when you describe it that, when people say heart surgery, what I like is when people give some graphics for people to relate to. So you say the size of a strawberry. I mean, to do any sort of work on something that small, and the slightest wrong move, and that's totally destroyed, because it'll be as fragile as a blooming strawberry as well. So that's absolutely unbelievable. And like you say, nowadays that'd probably be a lot slicker, but back then that must have been quite, well, almost groundbreaking, really, I think.
Well, it was. I had the surgery in 81, the 3rd of March, 81. So kind of the 3rd of March is kind of what I call like a second birthday, in the same way that the Queen has an official birthday and a real birthday. Sometimes I see myself as that. Not to try and compare myself to royalty, far from it. But, for me, that was a landmark. And you're right, prior to 1963, that procedure that I had didn't exist. So if I was born before then, I wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be having this conversation today. So, yeah, it's amazing that some of the things that we can do with modern medicine and some of the procedures that have developed over time. So, yeah, I'm very, very fortunate.
Yeah, so that then obviously affects, I imagine then, so if you've had that sort of problem with your heart, have you currently then continued to have a heart condition even though you've had that operation?
Absolutely. There was. It's what we would describe as a repair rather than a total fix. So it's something which I will have to monitor. And because there's not a huge patient group, and because also it's such a new procedure, we're kind of within my group, we're kind of writing medical history as we go. So we don't really know the outcomes. So that kind of makes it both exciting and scary at the same time.
Surgery in the future, or is that is it just a matter of watching what you're doing with your body rather than a medical intervention?
Well, the honest answer is we don't know. If we look at my patient group across the world, of which, through the wonders of things such as the internet, which we have, which we're using now, but likes of things such as Facebook, we've managed to sort of track down people, and we've got about 6,000 of us across the world out of a total of about 15,000. There's a huge spectrum. Some people are not here, and some people are doing fine. Will I need to have surgery in the future? We don't know. We simply don't know at this stage what's going to happen.
Has it spun you off to think differently about the world in general and um, how you live your life? Really, that's my sort of question.
It's constant on my radar, although it may not be consciously there, subconsciously. There's always a thought in the back of my mind: how's this going to affect me? What decisions should I make each day? Does it give me more of a sense of urgency about doing things? Does it change the way I behave? All these sorts of things. And I think that the answer is yes, of course it does.
There's certain things the way we'll talk about your business in a minute because my show's about business
Of
and
course.
dyslexia and all the rest of it. So then so you're on this sort of the planet, and you've got this condition. You've had out surgery, and obviously, subconsciously, it changes the way you are as a person because obviously you've never known anything different, like I've just said. So, I'm presuming, and I'm making a presumption now that that's what sort of sparked your business off. How did you get into your business? Was that because of that, or was it something that's happened between your birth and obviously at a certain point where you gone, hang on a minute, there's something wrong here.
There
I'm
were
not quite sure.
No, it's a good question, and there were defining moments along the way, in the sense that I think up until my early 20s or sort of mid 20s, I didn't really find it very interesting in terms of my condition and anything that I could do. I kind of thought, well, actually, this is what's going to happen. I can't do anything to change the outcomes, and that's not very empowering. In fact, that's a really shit place to be. Um, but along the way, different things happened. I'd watched people in some of the online groups. They weren't Facebook groups. These were before Facebook. There were forums that you could join of people with heart conditions. And you see people perish to these conditions, not just the condition I've got, but other chronic conditions as well. And it got to a point where I thought, well, maybe there is something I can do for myself to change the outcome. Well, whether it's just stacking the odds in my favour, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, far from it. So there was that, and that was sort of around about 2006, something like that. And then I tried different things. Now, I was never particularly overweight or anything like that, or neither nor was my health in any bad way. But it started to become on my radar more and more. And one of the things that really triggered this for me with this, Kirk, was that as I go into hospital every year, which I do just for a routine checkup, I go in annually, I go and see cardiology, and I go and sit in the waiting room. And you sit there as you do, in the hospital, and you've got the magazines there and the leaflets and all that sort of stuff. And I just sort of think to myself, I've been coming and doing this for the last 30 years that I can sort of remember, or 20 years, or whatever it was, decades. And I thought, I'm bigger than I used to be, and all the staff are bigger than they used to be, and all the patients as well around me are bigger than they used to be. I just think, something's not right here. And that was one of the moments, certainly. Now, there are more moments we can talk about if we were need to. But there was just a shift in awareness. I just started to think, something's not right here. This ain't right. And it just started to stem from there. Just little seeds were starting to grow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally, mate. Because I remember going to California back in year 2000, and obviously the American population of us over the last few decades had become larger than us. And I noticed it when I went over there, the size of people. And you're right. And I lived in Holland for quite a while, and they tended to be. I'm generalising now. Tend to be a lot slimmer and taller and slimmer. And you come back to the UK and go, wow.
It is, and as I went further down this sort of rabbit hole, so to speak, and started to do more research on this, and as I started to travel more in the same way that you've travelled quite substantially, some of the things that really started to make me think was that you take these Western countries, be it the United States or Holland or UK, or Australia, New Zealand, or Europe, doesn't matter. And you look at these countries and you think to yourself, right, they've got the best healthcare systems, you've got all the money that's required, all these wonderful, sexy procedures to look after people, and yet these people are the fattest and sickest. And then you look at the countries where they don't have these resources, these developing countries, and they're not fat and they're not sick and they don't have all these problems. And it's a massive disconnect. And that for me, I really started, that was one of the defining moments. I really started to think, why is that disconnect so strong? What are people doing differently? Is it diet? Is it exercise? Is it that there's something to do with the Earth's magnetic field? What is it? What's going on? And that really started to really sort of rattle my cage, so to speak. I think what's going on here?
Good point. Because you're right. You've got especially developing countries where they're doing a lot more physical exercise that we used to do in the Western world or the developed world, as it were, depending on how you look at it. So um, that lack of physical exercise, then change of diet with more food that's processed that gives you more calories and your body just digests it, quickly, then I think that's part of the issue. We've got more choice. Everything is abundant all year round. Um, for you're talking about the strawberry analogy, you were talking about your heart before. You only used to be able to get them at a certain time of the year, didn't you? Around about August, September time. Now you can get them all year round from all over the world,
That's
and so
right.
there's no seasonality in our diet anymore, and just everything's just there for consumption.
Absolutely, availability has become a huge, huge problem, and some of the mechanisms which used to be great to ensure our survival are now being spun a complete 180 against us. And I won't go down the route of saying it's a conspiracy. It's not. It's simply big business from food companies. But in the big changes in very recent times, and this is really a result of industrialization, the whole modern food markets and so on, and these types of things. We're seeing very strange problems that we never used to see in our society with the rise of it. And we're not just talking about people who are hugely overweight or anything like that. We're seeing problems in literally from cradle to grave. We're seeing more and more women are having to have cesarean sections because the babies are born too large. We're seeing people ending up with chronic health conditions throughout their life, which we never used to see, almost non-existent. And and then we're seeing it, and right the way through to having to have larger crematoriums built to burn larger bodies. It's become to that level. It's incredible.
Well, that's a bonkers the thing I never thought about. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like planes, isn't it? You go on the American planes, and they have bigger seats anyway, and then they have expansion bloody belts for people, don't they? It's
that's right.
for the people who can't even fit in the oversized seats you've got. I mean, when's it going to end? I don't know. I just think I think there's more. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I think you've got one side of the world which is dying because of lack of food, and the other side of the world is dying because they've got too much food. There needs to be a rebalance somewhere, a readdressed, don't they?
There is. There's a huge disparity in the planet at this stage, and when I look at the approach to human health overall, I tend to look at it through two lenses really. One is a very very wide lens, almost as if you're sort of sat on the moon looking down at the planet as a whole, and then one lens would be a very very small lens which is inside the body. And where I am now, I can see just looking out over the water, I can see just lit up the lights of the African coastline, and it's only 20, 30 miles from here, but the people there, they're so close geographically, yet they have a very, very different lifestyle. Look at their rates of disease, entirely different. Look at how they age, entirely different. And as they age, they become a contribution to society. When I look at the people in this country and also in the UK as well, people become a cost to society as they become older. So it's huge disparity, huge disparity. And we have to start to understand what drives that. I think that's the point that I make.
Yeah. So all this activity then spins off to Is that how you got into your business then? Through obviously that's how we started off, and it's gone quite. We've both been talking backwards and forwards. So that was the catalyst for your business starting, was it?
I think there were several. I think the one that really kicked this off for me was was twofold. One was that I gave a talk at a local business networking event. It was a Chamber of Commerce event, and there were about 50 people in the audience. They were typically 40s and 50s, mostly men, mostly with the sort of not what I describe as overweight, but let's just say they probably bought larger trousers over the years. And I gave a talk on heart disease just because I was interested, because and I wanted to give people, and I called it a state of health. I kept it very simple. And halfway through the talk, I could see people looking at me, and I could see them. I could see some people looking at me as if they wanted to come and kick my head in, and I could see some people nodding in agreement. And I was looking to myself, and I say this genuinely. Halfway through this, it wasn't a long talk. I think it was about half an hour, 40 minutes. I was looking for the fire exit. I'm thinking I'm going to get lynched here. I don't know how this is going to go down. But after the talk, what was fascinating was I got a standing ovation, and people came up to me and they said, Adam, they said, with the information that you've just told us, if you don't do this for yourself, do it for someone else, do it for other people, because this information's not out there. And that was a very big inspiration. Now, at that point, I did have absolutely no fucking clue how to turn what I had into a business. It was sheerly information that I'd learned from myself to put into place for myself. That was all it was, and that was one of the defining moments. The other one was the sudden death of my stepfather, who lived in the south of France, lived what we describe as a quote unquote heart healthy Mediterranean diet. And from there as well, that made dramatic changes. And I thought to myself, with those two things happening, I thought if we can make a difference here, just to change one person's life and to stop another family getting ripped apart with all the collateral damage which you do when people die suddenly, I thought if we can do that, this is going to be worth it. But at that point, I had no idea whether this would be a business or a cause or a belief or a movement or whatever. But that was where we started anyway. And
Yeah, I like that because that's great because it's a bit like me when I this show's about business and dyslexia, what have you, and it's similar to me in 2010. I went through the experience I did and wanted people not to go through the same experience. But back then, I didn't know how I was going to do it. And about 2 years ago, a bit of a green light came on. I still didn't know what I was going to do, and now, do you know what I mean? I didn't have it mapped out.
yeah,
And I
totally.
just
Yeah.
thought this for me is my mission in life. And yes, I'm going to turn it into a business as well. But my mission is ultimately to, like you're doing, you're trying to change people's diets and trying to change people's perception. So totally different in what we're trying to do, but very similar in what we're trying to do as well. We're trying to affect people's thought process in how they're living their lives or what they're doing. So my aim is to get people to start a business. And pretty much like you and me, people are probably sat there now going, I'd love to do a business, but that's for these special people over here. I don't know what this is going to do. And my answer to that is similar to what you've just said. Well, I just knew I had to do it, but I didn't know what it was going to be. And I think that's a great message, mate, to be honest with you. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that happened and you've started doing what you're doing because I know you've affected people. I've seen loads of people that interact with us on a regular basis. And some of the, there's a post on today about someone's lost over a stone and another guy's nearly there. And someone else. So whatever you're doing with those individuals, I've no idea. But whatever you do in those individuals is paying benefits to them. They're becoming fitter, they're becoming healthier. So that's hats off to you, mate. It really is.
Well, thank you. And it's a weird one because the truth of it is, when I was, in my what I don't know, coming of age years, I suppose, after I did my A levels and what have you, I was going to go off to university to I was becoming a doctor, and I was going to specialise in anaesthesia. My career that I had at that point in time was all about putting people to sleep, and now my whole life is spent waking people up. It's just you just couldn't make it up. It's so bizarre, and it's almost like a ripple effect. I have no idea how many people I've influenced over the years. I've got a record of the people I've formerly worked with, sure, but there's certainly an awakening, and it's not just from me. I think it's society as a overall, just going. Hmm. maybe we need to be questioning what's going on. Maybe there's a better solution to being put on a prescription medication just because we've been told to. So there's a bit of an uprising, and I think we're starting to see that on a global level when we look at things such as very recent events. Now, we could say they're blown out of proportion by the media because there's always been things gone on throughout global history, things such as the Brexit thing and the Trump thing and all this type of thing and so on. But I think we're starting to see some real big changes, and I think access to information and social media has made that so much more accessible for people. Huge changes, I think, are going to be going there.
Spot on, mate. Social media, it's got its really negative sides. There's bullying, there's all sorts of trolling, but I think the benefits outweigh that. And just picking up on a couple of things that we've been talking about, going back to what we were saying earlier about food, and then you just mentioned about um, pharmaceutical businesses. If you look at the global business, the global food market and the pharmaceutical market are very closely linked, and there's only probably about 8 companies in the world control most of the companies that we consume from. So I agree with you. I think there's a bit of a disconnect in. It's a big business, and I think I'm going to say that obviously what they're trying to do is generate more revenue, so sell more stuff to people. Hey, guess what? If we can sell more drugs and charge someone whatever it is, some of these drugs are hundreds and hundreds of pounds a month for people to have, then you've got to start scratching your head and going, hang on a minute, is there something going on here? That's they're quite happy for this time because we're actually funding their businesses because a business is there to make money. So
Yeah,
I think it's
you're
good. I think
right.
it's good what you. I think it's good what you're doing, mate. And I know you. I know you're big on the healthy eating and whatever. Anyway, talk a bit about that. Talk about the lifestyle and the food choice and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I think it follows on nicely from your point. Is that you're absolutely right. There's only really a handful of companies, conglomerates essentially that are put together that will make up all the foods that and food companies that really we see on the supermarket shelves or whatever in a restaurants or whatever. But the perception is that people have huge amounts of choice, and the perception is also that people are making their own decisions. But really, when you start to unpick this, and I'm not talking about the mechanics of do I choose this food or do I not choose this food. My question really, when I start to talk to people about this, and this is what really started to get me results with people, is to start to get inside their head and say, hold on a sec, do you actually control your thoughts here, or are your thoughts being controlled by an external body? And when I start to do that, we start to unpick people's belief systems. And I say to people, okay, so you believe that's healthy for you. Okay, I can accept that. But where did you get that belief system from? And that might be a result of culture or heritage or tradition, whatever it might be. Or it might be from friends or family. It might be from the media and all these sorts of things. So we have to be very, very careful as to where we get these belief systems around food. And it's big, big business, hugely big business. And you're right, when you look at a pharmaceutical industry and a food industry, now, we don't want to sound conspiracist about this, but I don't think we need to because the bottom line, it is business. It's big business. I don't have a problem with businesses making money. I think it's fantastic. That's the whole point. But when it gets to the point of affecting people's health, that's where I should be stepping in. And the reality of it is, the work that I do shouldn't need to exist. It shouldn't happen. It should be looked after. We should have a healthcare system that does that. The problem at the moment is we have a sick care system. There's no money in healthy people as such, and there's no money in dead people really. So the money's all in the middle with these people that are alive and they're okay, but they're not really very well, and that's the big money, and that's where these companies target: food companies and the pharmaceutical companies. And the government don't want to tell people what to do. It's not a vote winner to upset the status quo, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, it does, mate. It does. I'm fully on board with it. I mean, I know we come from we're polar opposites in our food choices, um, but I agree with you, mate. I think a lot of stuff. Well, everything you say makes absolutely logical sense. Even though we choose to have a different lifestyle and a different way of eating food, so and I think that's great that we can do that and come together and agree on it because I think we should all always look to understand someone else rather than trying to twist them to our own, our own belief system. So it's great. I think you're right. I think everything you're doing is great, and I hope people take on board your teachings, your learnings, and your experience and what you're saying.
Well, I think it's got to start the same with almost every business out there, not just mine. I think people have to understand that yes, there are certain businesses which will have defined models, and I don't know specifically because I'm not an accountant, for example, but that may have a set path. You may require to do X, Y, Z academic qualification, X, Y, Z professional qualification, and you follow a career path if you want to. That's fine. And there's no problem, and you can intertwine your personality. With the sort of thing that I'm doing, the sort of thing that you're doing, it's unprecedented. But everything is unprecedented until it happens for the first time. And my thoughts on this are, and it's almost advice in some ways, because a lot of people have said to me over the years, Adam, maybe you should go into business coaching, or maybe you should do this. And I've said, well, actually, I'd probably be quite good at it, but I don't have a passion for it. It doesn't interest me, and this is where we start to go down the route of what really should drive a business and what really should make somebody start a business. That's what we've got to be cautious with. If that makes sense to you, that's where we're trying to push with this.
Yeah, that's fine, mate. That's fine. I mean, we've only got a couple of minutes left now because we've rattled on somewhat, but I've enjoyed it, and I think it's great that we've done that and we've spoke about it, because we've spoke a bit about business, not knowing what to do with a business, setting the business up, and we've had a bit of a discussion about food and that's what I like. These are conversations, you see, and I really enjoy doing these with people because I get to learn loads of stuff, and hopefully people out there do. So. You're currently on your tour at the minute. I don't know if you want to talk about that or why you're doing it, and then tell us a bit about where people can get hold of you if they want some more information.
Yeah, sure. I mean, to keep it kind of succinct, one of the things that I've wanted to do is to social media is great. People can listen to this through various channels, and people can engage with me or you through Facebook or whatever. That's fine. But one of the things I wanted to do was to go and meet people with the same heart condition as me. So I spent the first week of my trip traveling around Europe. I traveled through 9 countries in 7 days and met with different people who had the same heart condition as me. And that was really, really empowering to do that, something I had never done before. And I found that incredible. And the connection you had that was phenomenal. But also, from a business perspective as well, as I grow, and again, this was never how I set out to do it, as I grow, just to keep this quite for the sake of brevity, at the moment, my business is essentially one-to-one consultancy, which is great. But the problem is, I can only work with a certain number of people, and I can't scale it. So for me, what I said to myself is I'm going to take myself away for 3 to 4 weeks and go and work on productizing my business. And that allows me to reach more people. It allows people who can't afford the consultancy service, people who just want to find out a little bit more, to get involved with this and just to start to get an awakening, which is what I've achieved, and that's fantastic. And watch this space. That's what will happen soon. People want to get hold of me, they can just look online, look at the business name. It's Intelligent Eating, simple as that. Intelligent for people who are intelligent, eating for people who are interested in food. Just Google it; it will come up. Simple as that.
That's wonderful, mate. And it's been great to catch up with you. And enjoy the rest of your trip. And please have a safe journey back, because I think people need you around. So stay around as long as you can to keep doing what you're doing, because you're changing people, mate. And whether people agree with you or disagree with you, like you or don't like you, I don't care. I think you're great. I've got a lot of time for you, mate. So have a safe journey back. Thanks for doing this interview with me. Really appreciate it. I'll speak to you soon, mate.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for the kind words. All the best. Cheers, guys.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that, people. Thanks, Adam, for being on the show. Go and check him out, Intelligent Eating. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's a vegan as well, and I'm very much a meat eater, so that's why partway through the conversation we're talking about having different views on food. But yeah, he's a great guy, though. You've been listening to bringing interesting guests. I'll let you know who I've got next week. Yeah, don't forget to check out my show on a Friday night on Radio Warwick Show, which is a country show. If you're listening on iTunes, please subscribe and check out www.radiowarwickshire.com. Thanks for joining me. Have Have a great rest of the week, people. Thanks. See ya.